Welcome to News Nexus. Today we're going to talk about something that touches the lives of nearly every American family, the dream of owning a home. For decades, owning a home has been the centerpiece of the American dream. It symbolized success, stability, and a secure future. But in 2005, for millions of hardworking people, that dream feels further away than ever. Why is it that in the richest nation on earth, an entire generation feels locked out of homeownership? Why do so many Americans work harder than ever, yet feel like they'll never afford a place of their own? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future of the middle class, for families, and for the very fabric of American society? Let's break it all down. For generations, a house with a yard, maybe even a white picket fence, was more than just property. It was a symbol of security. A home meant building equity, raising a family, and setting down roots. Parents worked long hours, saved what they could, and eventually bought a place to call their own. But today, things look very different. Rising prices, stagnant wages, inflation, high interest rates, and corporate investors have combined to create one of the toughest housing markets in modern history. The result is clear. Millions of Americans who once expected to own a home now believe they never will. Over the past decade, home prices in the United States have soared. In places like Austin, Denver, and Miami, homes that once sold for $200,000 now cost $500,000 or more. Even smaller towns and suburban areas that were once affordable have seen prices climb beyond reach. A simple 3-bedroom starter home, the kind a young couple could once afford, now sells for $300,000, $400,000, sometimes far more. The speed of this rise has left people behind. Wages simply haven't kept up, and the gap between income and housing costs is wider than ever before. And that brings us to the second factor, wages. Adjusted for inflation, the median wage in America hasn't meaningfully increased in decades. Yes, people are making more dollars on paper, but when you account for inflation and the rising cost of living, those dollars don't stretch nearly as far. Meanwhile, the price of everything else, groceries, gas, medical care, and utilities, has been climbing steadily. Over the past few years, inflation has made it worse, squeezing families from every direction. That squeeze means there's less money to save at the end of the month. And without savings, the idea of a down payment for a house feels almost impossible. On a $400,000 home, the traditional 20% down payment is $80,000. For the average American household, saving that much can take decades, if it's even possible at all. Even with lower down payment programs, say 3 or 5%, the monthly mortgage payments skyrocket. Add in mortgage insurance, property taxes, and maintenance, and the cost quickly becomes unaffordable. For many, the down payment wall is the first and highest barrier. Now, even if you manage to climb over that wall, there's another challenge. Interest rates. Back in 2020, buyers could lock in a 30-year mortgage at just under 3%. That meant lower payments and easier access to homeownership. Fast forward to today, and rates have more than doubled. Many mortgages now carry rates above 7%. To put it in perspective, a $300,000 loan at 3% costs about $1,200 a month. The same loan at 7% costs nearly $2,000. That's an $800 jump every single month. It's easy to see how millions of buyers are priced out. There's another piece of this puzzle that doesn't get enough attention. Wall Street. Large corporations, private equity firms, and hedge funds are buying up single-family homes in bulk. They turn these houses into rentals, keeping families in the rental cycle while driving up home values. In cities like Atlanta, Phoenix, and Charlotte, investors own entire neighborhoods. Families trying to buy a first home often find themselves bidding not against other families, but against billion-dollar investment firms that can pay cash. The result is fewer homes available for ordinary buyers, higher prices, and more power concentrated in the hands of corporate landlords. Layer on top of that another challenge: debt. Millions of younger Americans, Millennials and Gen Z, are saddled with heavy student loan payments. For some, it's $200 a month. For others, it's $600 or even $1,000. That kind of financial burden eats away at any chance of saving for a home. Combine student loans with rising car payments, credit card balances, and everyday expenses, and the idea of saving tens of thousands for a down payment becomes more like a fantasy than a plan. And then there's the supply problem. America simply hasn't built enough homes. Restrictive zoning laws, rules that limit what can be built where, have slowed down construction. In many suburban neighborhoods, rules prohibit duplexes, apartments, or townhomes, even when demand for affordable housing is overwhelming. Builders often focus on high-end homes because they bring bigger profits, leaving fewer affordable options on the market. The result is a chronic shortage of housing that keeps prices elevated year after year. This crisis has created a deep generational divide. Baby boomers and older Gen X homeowners bought decades ago when prices were low and interest rates were manageable. Their home values have since soared, building massive equity and wealth. But Millennials and Gen Z are facing the opposite. Record high prices, crushing debt, and shrinking opportunities. This inequality isn't just about money, it's about opportunity. Homeownership is one of the main ways families build wealth in America. Without it, younger generations risk falling further behind. And so, millions are forced to rent. But the rental market is no escape. Across the country, rents are rising faster than wages. In many cities, renters spend 40 to 50% of their income just to keep a roof overhead. That leaves little for savings, little for emergencies, and nothing left over to invest. It becomes a cycle. Can't buy a home, so you rent. But rent is so high you can't save. Without savings, you'll never own. It's a trap, and it's tightening. Beyond the financial stress, there's a psychological toll. For decades, homeownership wasn't just financial. It was cultural. It meant independence, adulthood, and achievement. When young Americans feel locked out, it creates frustration, anger, and even despair. They see their parents or grandparents who owned homes at their age and wonder, what changed? Why does the dream feel rigged against us? The loss of that dream is creating a sense of hopelessness that is reshaping how entire generations view their future. It's worth asking, if millions are losing, who's winning? The answer? Wealthy investors, landlords, and corporations. Rising property values mean higher profits. Banks earn more on bigger mortgages. Developers make more building luxury units. Meanwhile, ordinary families, first-time buyers, and renters are left behind. The solutions aren't simple, but they are possible. Experts suggest reforming zoning laws to allow more housing supply, cracking down on corporate bulk purchases of single-family homes, expanding affordable housing programs, providing down payment assistance for first-time buyers, and addressing student loan burdens and stagnant wages. But all of these require political will and the courage to challenge powerful interests who benefit from the status quo. If nothing changes, the future of homeownership in America looks bleak. Renting may become the norm, and owning may become a luxury reserved for the wealthy. That would mean a society with deeper inequality, fewer opportunities for upward mobility, and a middle class under constant pressure. The question we face is whether we want that future, or whether we're willing to fight for a fairer, more accessible path to homeownership. So why is owning a home impossible for most Americans now? It's not just one reason, it's the combination of many. Soaring prices, stagnant wages, rising debt, higher interest rates, corporate investors, and a broken housing system. Together, they've put the dream of homeownership out of reach for millions. The American dream has always been about opportunity. But today, that opportunity is slipping away. The question is, will we let it disappear? Or will we find a way to bring it back, to make homeownership a possibility once again for ordinary families, for young people, and for the generations yet to come? Thank you for joining us here on News Nexus. If you found this deep dive valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Together, let's keep shining a light on the issues that matter most. Until next time, stay informed and stay empowered.